Oh yeah, 1 minute. 1 minute and we're coming at you. We'll be talking about the newest Jets roster moves. Be taking reactions from people like Paolo. Oh, and Tennessee. Let's get ready!
Hello and welcome into another episode of Reality Check here on the channel. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary, joined as always by my good buddy Jeremy Jets Chaos. How are you? How's it going, Jeremy?
I'm good. We're good. We're crazy things are happening right now. Like after some disgruntled fans, I was a little disgruntled about some things. Some tremendous moves going on right now as we speak in the last couple of hours. Just amazing.
Absolutely. So we had to wait a little bit, Jeremy, for the official 53-man roster to be released. Due at 4 p.m. yesterday. Jets released it about a little, 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. So had my reaction on Talking Jets, talked about it in the podcast earlier this morning. We'll get into some stuff with the, initial 53, but I think we got to start with the latest here, Jeremy, which is the New York Jets made 3 waiver wire claims. I'll pull those up right here. Jelani Woods, tight end, linebacker Cam Jones from the Kansas City Chiefs, and also from the Kansas City Chiefs, offensive tackle Issa Pohl.
The first thing that jumps out at me, I got to tell you, is Issa Pohl, and here's why. Because Issa Pohl was number 1 on Dom C's list of for those of you who don't know, we have a chat where we share, and on Twitter, if you follow Dom C Prospect, whatever Project Prospect, Dom C had a list of the players that he has his eye on, the guys that were being waived, of who he wanted. And Issa Pohl was number 1, I think, on his list. And if I was to say that Dom C's biggest strength is definitely offensive line. That's what he knows best. That's what he played. That's where he's already been proven to be really knowledgeable and right and correct. And he loved this kid. And if anything, I know we as Jet fans have suffered a lot of injuries in the offensive line, and we all value really good depth. So that was a really good thing. And then, of course, if Jelani Woods was a Green Bean special, right? Like Green Bean got us, always had wanted that guy, loves the guy. And I'm being told the only, it's just been an injury thing. But if we can stay healthy, we may have just gotten a lot better in that room as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then adding a linebacker. I have the numbers for each guy in the preseason. So you started with Issa Pohl, so we'll bring that up. I thought, looking at his numbers, some good pass blocking metrics. He played in 68 offensive snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs in the 3 preseason games that they played. No pressures allowed, no sacks, none of that stuff, which is obviously, pretty good. Good size at 6'7", obviously a little bit on the long side, right? You mentioned a UDFA from this past draft class, didn't make the team. Washington State is where he went to school. I'm going to assume numbers game in Kansas City, right, is a big reason. I think in a perfect world, he would have been heading back to the practice squad, but the Jets swoop in and add him to their active roster.
I love it. Look at the pass blocking. And, if you're going to have if you have a tackle get hurt, the thing you're most worried about is that you're going to have the backup guy come in and you're not going to be able to do anything with the offensive pass. Like he's a drop back and whoever, he's just going to get beat all the time and the quarterback's going to be terrorized. I'm not saying run blocking is not important, but that's the first thing. Like, is he competent? Can he come in And can he allow your team to function? The running scores are a little bit lower there. Again, there's not a ton of snaps, though. And I think that, and this is just a theory, I'm not saying it's factual, but I think that if anything involves more chemistry in playing with your offensive line, that's more intricate about depending on that chemistry, it's run blocking. And I think that any person who comes into a game as a backup might struggle in the run blocking scheme because they don't have as much experience and reps with the guys around them.
Yeah, it's a good point talking about the reps and the chemistry that gets built in the run game. It's so important in the pass game too, but especially at tackle, sometimes you're a little bit more out on an island rather than moving around and trying to make plays in the run game. So slightly different there.
Yeah.
My big thing is, so they add Issa Poll to the roster. Who leaves or who is the odd man out? We could pull up while we're looking here too. Jets Talk 24/7 made this nice looking graphic. We don't have to go through and click through the pictures and the 6 advertisements to see who made the roster with this graphic. So at tackle, Olu Fashanu, Armand Membu, Chuck Okorafor, Max Mitchell, guard, AVT Simpson, Newman, Marquise Hayes, and then obviously Joe Timmon and Josh Meyer at center. But we think in one of the tackles is the odd man out. Is Hayes the odd man out? I'll be honest, I was a little surprised that Hayes made it.
I mean, I don't even know who Hayes is. I was like, who is this guy? Why is he on our roster? Look, I hear a lot of people screaming, Max Mitchell. But here's the thing. Max Mitchell, the one thing you could say about him is he has played well before he had that, as a rookie in the beginning. Initially, he had played well. He has filled in at multiple positions, versatility. He's come that's a valuable thing. He could play all 4, everything except center. He can come in and play. I'm not saying he plays it well, but there's a ton of versatility there. Whereas Marquise Hayes, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who this guy is. I'm hoping it's Hayes. I still haven't 100. I still want to see Max Mitchell with a competent coaching staff because
Okay.
I say this kid came into the NFL with really good mechanics. Like that's why we drafted him. I say he played really well, and then he had these blood clot issues. And then I say, like a lot of our offensive linemen and tight ends the past few years, we saw regression. We saw guys get worse. And I don't understand that. And I'm not saying that they're great. I'm not saying that it's not because of them. I'm saying I just wanted to see some of these guys with competent coaching to see what we can get out of them.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think really it's going to be up to whether they want to keep an additional tackle or guard. I guess the positive with Mitchell is he can play both, where I don't believe that Hayes can play both. So theoretically, having one less guard might be okay if they think that Max Mitchell's going to play inside too in a pinch.
Yeah, and none of this is enough to get me too emotional. Like if I'm wrong and they cut Mitchell, I'm not going to be outraged, right? I'm not going to sit there I'm not going to be like these guys that go on Twitter and start freaking out. I'm not saying it's not. There are guys we like and we get disappointed, but this is not to the level of, oh my God, they don't know what we're doing and overreact and I screw this team and these are horrible coaches and Moogs should be fired. And like over these like really deep back end roster moves, I'm going to control my temper and my emotions on this because at least until we win or lose, right? Because we could disagree at roster moves. If they come out and win 7 to 9 games this year, I'm not saying, if that was to happen, then I'm not going to, like, who am I to complain?
Yeah, because that kind of hits our expectation, right? Like that
just win. Because at the end of the day, more than all these little things that we get mad about, should Clemens still be on all these things? Just win. If the Jets, if we really want to see this fan base stop getting so crazy over every little thing, win. Because if we're winning, you're going to see I think you're going to see the complaining stop.
100%. I think that's what the fans want to see. They're kind of tired of hearing about the culture change and then going 4-13. That would not be ideal. But if you're going, like you said, 7 to 9 wins in that range, I think you feel, all right, they took a step forward, and you got to give this staff, both the coaching staff and the front office, some kudos, right? Like they took a positive step in the right direction.
I mean, the number one thing is if we won 8 games, when's the last time we won 8 games?
2015 was the last time they won 8 or more games.
2015. So if we win 8 games and people are still complaining, or people saying that's bullshit, if we only win 8 games, screw AJ, like then you have to get your head examined. And we get, because I look at the comments after the show that some people put in, and there are people that put in the most insane comments and to these videos, where they'll say that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. 8 wins would be terrible. Really? We haven't won 8 games since 2015. Aaron Glenn just took over the team after such a disappointing, disastrous, soul-sucking year. If he was to come in after everything that we went through these past few years, and specifically last year, and win 8 games with one offseason, this new general manager bringing in a quarterback that's clearly, for the most part, probably going to be a bridge quarterback, and win 8 games, and you tell me that's disastrous, or get rid of them, or they did a terrible job, I don't even care about those fans. That's just, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
Not living in reality is what it is. Not living in reality.
Not living in reality. Yeah. I had somebody say, I can't listen to this guy talk about the fact that we might draft, or we should draft a quarterback in 2026. If Justin Fields, and I hope he is, I wish he is, if Justin Fields doesn't play well, he's clearly not the guy. Like if he proves it this year, if he comes out this year, and even if we win some games, clearly he's not the guy. We have no passing game. We're forced to run the game. And it's very obvious that we're never going to be a championship contender with him at quarterback. If that's the case, and you tell me that drafting a quarterback in 2026 is bad, and that I'm stupid for talking about it, and you can't listen to me because Darnold and Zach Wilson didn't work out, or Sanchez didn't work out, I can't talk to you, because that is the stupidest thing in the world.
We can't try it again.
Like, we can't try it again because it didn't work in the past. Well, Kansas City won a bunch of Super Bowls. How did they get their quarterback?
They traded up for him.
Right. How did the Eagles win? The Eagles won a Super Bowl. How did they get the quarterback?
They drafted him in the second round.
They drafted him. The Steelers were a good organization. How did they get Ben Roethlisberger? They drafted him. Now, you could sit there and say, well, New England got Tom Brady in the 6th round. Okay. But statistically, a quarterback that's drafted after the 3rd round, statistically, this is real numbers, since the year 2000, has a 4% chance of becoming a starting quarterback one day. So can we stop the discussion of the Jets should never draft a quarterback in the 1st round again? Can we stop that nonsense? This is a different general manager. This is like, typically, if you look at most Super Bowl teams, that's how they got their quarterback. They drafted him.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see it all the time, right? Fans get this team, they always seem to miss or figure out, a way to mess up the quarterback, so they're not going to figure it out. Washington, good example. How long have they been looking for a franchise quarterback? And then finally they hit on one in Jaden Daniels, but they took one. When was Haskins? Dwayne Haskins. That was
right. 2019. And I just want to say, it doesn't matter that Hurts was. I agree that Hurts wasn't the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but he's good enough quarterback that they were able to. And I hope that Fields proves to be a guy that we could be a Super Bowl contender with, and we don't have to use a pick on quarterback. That would be great. That would be great. I'm not saying that. I'm rooting for Fields. But if he's not the guy to sit there and say we shouldn't draft a quarterback with a 1st round pick because it hasn't worked in the past, just doesn't make any sense.
No, it's crazy. It's honestly just, fans are hurt because like you ran through all the ones that they missed on, but you got to keep swinging until you hit the ball.
Right. Like, what about Josh Allen? They haven't won a Super Bowl, but you wouldn't want Josh Allen? You wouldn't want Lamar Jackson? You wouldn't want these guys to be your quarterback? Like, it's like, stop the nonsense. I mean, yes, you're going to pick at outliers. Well, this guy wasn't drafted by the team and they won a Super Bowl, Nick Foles, but who cares? That's your argument for not drafting a quarterback? Look at history, though. Look at the last 50 years of teams. What about Peyton Manning? What about Eli Manning? How did those teams get them? I mean, what are we talking about here? Like, I can't live in this alternate world of thinking where we have to go to, like we really have to argue that a team that shouldn't draft a quarterback that needs one. Like, what are we talking about? Like, of course we should draft a quarterback. If Fields isn't the guy, and we have a top 15 pick, and you have a year in 2026 where there's a lot of really good quarterbacks, how do you not pick one?
Yeah, it's something that we might have to get to, right? Like that's a realistic thing that I think fans need to keep in the back of their head, that there might be a world where we're talking about drafting someone in 2026. But it goes back to your original point, which was you have a guy at quarterback this year who's a question mark, right? Like they like his upside, and I get it. For anyone who's a big Justin Fields fan and says that, circumstance wasn't good enough for him, in past stops, fine. Like, okay, if that's your belief, but still, this is an unproven quarterback. And if they win 8 games with the unproven quarterback, I think that's a good first step.
Yeah, that would be great. But Cody's saying nobody's saying this. No, Cody, people were saying it. That's why I'm reacting to it. People were actually saying, I can't listen to this guy because he's saying that we should draft a quarterback. So I'm just reacting to that. I just think that's nuts. And I think you could disagree with it, but to actually attack somebody for saying it, to say imagine saying his take is so terrible because he's talking about getting a quarterback in the first round in a draft. It's just unbelievable to me. But anyway, let's move on to Cam Jones. I'm excited about this guy.
Yeah, so we got 2 more guys to talk about, Jeremy. I love the passion. But Cam Jones is another recent addition at linebacker. He's been with Kansas City since 2023. So he has played in the regular season. I'll pull up, obviously not 2025. I'll go back and do some regular season. Not a ton of snaps, 82 in 2023 and 80 in 2024. Seems like more of a run defending linebacker. Isn't great in coverage. But if we go to this year's preseason numbers, good tackler and made some plays in the run game.
Okay. I mean, look, what's his role? What are we talking about? Who's getting right? I mean, like, is he a backup? Is he the starting base defensive linebacker? Or no, he's a backup linebacker. The question really becomes who's cut? Who are we releasing for him? And what's his upside? What are they thinking? Why are they bringing this guy in? He's obviously young.
I would think Zaire Barnes. They really like McCurry Ball, and he plays special teams too. So I would think that he's safe. I think Malingoa, who they just drafted this year, is probably safe. But this to me would be a Zaire Barnes swap.
Yeah, I think that McCrary is going to probably be the starting base defensive linebacker, right? Like when we go with 3 linebackers, it's going to be McCrary.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know how much we're going to see 3 linebackers on the field. I think it's going to be a lot of 2 linebackers with Michael Carter as the slot on the field more than the 3rd linebacker.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more. And as a matter of fact, Aaron Glenn did say that. He alluded to that. He actually called Carter a slot that plays linebacker. He actually said those words. Like he actually referred to Michael Carter II as a linebacker.
Yeah, no, I
he didn't say he didn't say he's a linebacker, but he said he's able to play that role.
Right, he's going to be on the field in that role, so to speak, and he'll be used a lot in coverage and maybe blitzing off the slot. I could see for him this year, but yeah, to me, I definitely think Cam Jones would then push Zaire Barnes off. That's the natural progression, I'd imagine.
Right.
The next guy or last guy really that we have to talk about that they added is an interesting one. Jelani Woods, in the preseason, some decent numbers, 7 catches for 75 yards. It's kind of been a preseason monster for Indianapolis, but really, unfortunately, has missed a lot of time due to injury in the regular season. Only has, regular season numbers in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, look, this guy, it was just injuries, right? This was a prospect that a lot of people loved. Like, a lot of people wanted to draft him. It's interesting because we also, though, have had a bad history of we get these guys that have an injury history, and the second they get injured, right? Half our fan base goes absolutely ballistic and says, this is what happens. Why would you bring in a guy that has an injury history? But I don't think we're bringing him in at any cost, right? It's not like we're using a top 3, third round draft pick on a guy who has an injury, history. And it's not like we're signing a huge contract to a guy with an injury history. This is like low stakes, low risk.
Yeah, it absolutely is low stakes and low risk. And to me, I would assume this is a Jeremy Ruckert replacement, and Mason Taylor is going to be the leading tight end far and away, but they do like to use 2 tight ends. And I think it's going to be a mix between Andrew Beck, Stone Smart, and now also Jelani Woods, depending on what the situation is.
Wow, that's like, feels weird to say. Jeremy Ruckert being waived, and I know I'm not sitting there saying he's been a star or anything, but man, there was a time we were so high on him, and like it was such a good feel-good story for a second there, and now the reality that we might be here at this time where we're going to watch Jeremy Ruckert get released and go somewhere else, and he will get picked up somewhere else, is it's wow. Makes you swallow.
Yeah, no, it's tough because I was a bit like, even before the Jets drafted him, and honestly, before I even knew that he grew up a Jets fan, just watching him play at Ohio State, I thought he was the second best tight end behind Trey McBride in that class. And I thought good blocker, but I thought he had more potential as a pass catcher in Ohio State. Didn't really utilize it a ton. He had that unbelievable catch with Justin Fields as a quarterback against, I want to say, Clemson in one of the playoff games. And just for whatever reason, didn't work out. And it stinks, right? Like we all rooted for this guy. I think it's a really cool story, but he's in year 4 now and didn't have a strong training camp or preseason. And unfortunately, I just think they were looking for an upgrade here.
Yeah, I'm only bummed because I would have liked, and I'm not making a big deal out of it. I mean, he obviously is not what we wanted him to develop into. If he was, we wouldn't have had to draft Mason Taylor, right? I mean, it's because obviously Ruckert, no matter almost no matter what he does, will have not worked out to the way we were hoping. But I just am bummed because I thought I would have liked to see him get a chance with some competent coaching, because it feels like he came in a better player than when he's leaving. Like, I feel like Jeremy Ruckert, when he first got to the Jets, has regressed, similar to like what we said about Mitchell. And I just would have wanted him to, and I know that you can't do that. You can't hang out to guys out of emotion, but I would have been interested to see what he could do if he just had a competent coaching staff. And I'm not saying he would do any better. I'm saying at least I would have felt better in a year from now to say, well, he didn't improve at all. So it's not the coaching, it's him. As opposed to always having to wonder, and maybe not have to wonder. Maybe he gets picked up and does really well somewhere, and then we'll know it was the coaching.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, right? Like we'll see. And I don't have anything bad, wish wise for Jeremy Ruckert. If he does end up being cut, I hope that he signs on somewhere and sticks around the NFL. It's just the unfortunate part of the league. But we do have some guys who were spotted at practice as a part of the practice squad. So I figured I'd pull that up and we could talk about that. According to Zach Rosenblatt, Quentin Skinner, Jamal Pritchett, Eric Watts, Peyton Page, Brady Cook, Boog Smith, Harrison Mevis, Cole Laval, Jordan Clark, Jackson Sermon, Dean Clark, Leander Wygand, all were at practice today. As of yet, didn't see Donovan Edwards or Brandon Smith.
The no Brandon Smith. It better be because he was picked up. You can't tell me that you don't put him on. Like, that would be absolutely just gross to me. Like, I don't understand what he has to do. It's unfair to him. Why did you have him in camp? So basically, come to camp. Supposedly, everybody has a shot to compete for a job. Come out and do nothing but get open in the preseason games. Do nothing but catch everything thrown in your vicinity. And you don't even make our practice squad. And it makes me question just how is that fair to him even? Like what did he not do to even, and maybe he is on the practice squad. Maybe they have a plan for him. Maybe he's not there because he got picked up and it hasn't been announced yet. We don't know about it. I don't know. I just don't understand what that kid had to do. But I'm really happy to see Skinner, and I'm really happy to see Pritchard, just because I think that if you see Gibson come out and like fumble a punt return early in the season, I think that he's on, like I think you're gonna see Pritchard replace him, and a lot of us is gonna be like sitting there saying, "Told you so."
Yeah. The thing that stands out to me is one, Pritchett back is good. I definitely think Gibson will have a short leash. I think they just prefer his experience, which not that he's been really all that productive. I would argue I'd rather the upside with Pritchett, but at the end of the day, Brandon Smith not being there is a little worrisome. I would imagine that someone's going to pick him up. Right before we hopped on, Malachi Corley actually got picked up by the Browns to go on their practice squad.
Yeah, they love head cases.
So. I mean, it's not surprising, right? It seems like a fit. They took on Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore ends up in Buffalo this year. I wonder if we'll see a similar track of Malachi Corley with Cleveland, but just some not great reports coming out on Corley on the maturity, which I think was a big issue for him and a big reason why he's not here anymore.
I don't know, man. It's like it was a different coaching staff we had this year, and they didn't like him. So like it used to be, oh well, it's Sala, and like we had a lot of problems with and thought it might be them, and now you have a second regime come in, and he still didn't make the team. So you have to assume that's two different coaching staffs that didn't like him. So we'll see what happens in Cleveland, but I'm not gonna. It's hard to really complain about it. Like it's like, what are you gonna do? It's like it's the second coaching staff that didn't like him.
Yeah, I want to confirm. I'm seeing Donovan Edwards to Washington.
That makes
sense. Matt Lombardo, NFL insider, said Donovan Edwards is going to go to Washington's practice squad.
Yeah, it's not a shock.
Yeah,
it's a shock that we didn't try to put him on ours.
Yeah, I do think we also overrated him after that first preseason game. He really didn't do all that much. I know he had a short, rushing touchdown in the final preseason game, but I think on the entirety of the preseason, he averaged like 3.5 yards a carry, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's intriguing because a lot of people like Michigan, right? So a lot of people knew who he was. They liked the player. He did some good things, and I think he might end up being a player, but I think we all have to realize we only have 53 and we only have a certain amount of roster shots. We're pretty strong at running back. Like it's a really strong position for us. So it's just one of those casualties, like it, and that, he'll fit in better with a team that doesn't have as deep a roster at running back.
The one thing that I'll add on this too is I know that Nwannu sticks around mostly because he's going to be the kick returner, but I also thought he had a better preseason running the ball than Donovan Edwards did.
Yeah, look, I mean, everything is about we knew that this team, based on AG, he said it since he took over the coaching job, how big he is on special teams. We knew he comes from the Parcells, family tree. And those of you who know about Parcells remember him. He was very, very big on special teams, kickoff returns, punt returns, field position. And I'm not saying all coaches aren't big on it. It's important, obviously. If you're a head coach and you don't think that's important, you shouldn't be a head coach. But I'm talking about like level. Like if you were to, invest resource, how much of your resource goes here, there. He comes from a tree of coaching where Parcells believed in putting a lot of resource into special teams.
No, he absolutely did. Let's get into some of the comments now. We spent a lot of time talking roster stuff, and if any news comes out where guys end up, I haven't seen anything on Brandon Smith just yet, but I'll keep an eye out. We got one. Zach is pretty convinced. He says he'll be running back 1 by the end of the year, talking Donovan Edwards, but we have 2 kickers. Do you have any issue with the Jets keeping Harrison Mevis on the practice squad?
I don't. I'm not outraged by it, but I kind of think it's strange a little bit. It's probably not what I would do, but I'm not a GM and I'm not claiming to be. So, and I don't know what their thinking is. Maybe I don't know if they're worried about folks' health. Do they think there's a chance that he's, because of his age? Like, I don't know what the thinking is like of of him? Did they think he was going to get picked up somewhere else and they really like him for his future? I don't know. There was nothing he did overall. I don't think he did bad, but there was nothing that made me think, oh my God, we can't let this guy get away. Like, I didn't feel that way. But I don't know that Donovan Edwards will be running back 1. Like I wouldn't make that as a statement. I'd also say it wouldn't be impossible, but we've went through, we've struggled with kickers in the past. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah. And maybe I'm just not as high on Donovan Edwards. I think he's a fringe roster guy. If the Jets were a little bit weaker at running back, different story. Maybe he could be a third running back on a team. But I'm not really looking at the Jets pecking order with, Braylon Allen, who's in year 2, Isaiah Davis, who's in year 2, and Breece Hall, and going, he's someone that had to stick around because he's going to be a part of this team's future. Even if the Jets don't retain Breece Hall, I think, with Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, they could probably then just look to add another back in the draft next year who I think, could potentially be better than what Donovan Edwards is at this level.
Yeah. I mean, I'm look, I understand. There was parts of during the preseason game that he was doing well. Like, I was like, oh my God, are we going to keep this kid? But I just don't think it's like worth getting crazy. Like, that's not something to go really wild over. I mean, we're really strong at running back. He looks really good, but it was against the 3s and the 4s. It wasn't against the 1s. They're looking at him in practice. They're seeing his attributes. And it's just hard to scream about every possible thing. Maybe he will make it as a running back in this league, but it's not like he's standing out like a Braylon Allen or like he's not. He didn't stand out like, oh my God, this is like an RB1 going to be 1,000-yard rusher someday. If he turns out to be that, then I guess we're going to shrug our shoulders and say we were wrong.
Aether Bard chimes in and says, seems like they went with experience at wide receiver, at least for the initial 53. That could change in a few weeks. So, they Xavier Gibson over Jamal Pritchett and Brandon Smith. Alan Lazard makes the team. What's your takeaway on the wide receiver room and how it looks right now?
I think the thing I like least is the Gibson, because they stated, like, they came in and said that jobs are up for grabs to be won. And, I don't know, there's what we don't see, but in what we've seen, it feels like Gibson, if you take away Gibson's touchdown against Buffalo on that Monday Night Football game, you take away that punt return for a touchdown, what do you have?
A lot of fumbles and misreads.
One of the most untrustworthy punt returners, who doesn't make the risk of fumble worth it because he hasn't done anything really that significant. He's had a couple of okay returns, and then what has he done as a receiver? So I don't see what the upside is in him is, right? I mean, he's like, and why wouldn't you want to bring in a different punt returner? But maybe there's something. I didn't go to the practices. Maybe Pritchard was fumbling everything left and right. I don't know. But it just feels weird that we can't find a better punt returner, because I feel like, how are we not improving on that when I feel like we had one of the worst punt returners in football the last, since that one punt return.
Yeah, and for me, it's more so like, I don't think the 6th wide receiver is going to get a ton of reps in the passing game, but it's more about the punt returning than it is about anything else, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, how many catches? If the wide receiver 6 has 5 catches this year, it'll probably be a lot. But they're going to catch 2 to 5 punts a game, probably somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I don't know that Pritchard would be any better than Gibson in an emergency if he had to get more, because of injuries, get more snaps or whatever. That could be people's opinion of where, because it's. Gibson didn't offend me as a receiver. He didn't do anything. It's the punt returning. That's what got me so perplexed. Like, I was literally screaming with Green Bean during the reaction games. There were times where we were both screaming, just run away. Like, don't have a punt returner. Just run away from the ball, because he was that scary. It felt like everything was, he was bobbling things. He had fumbled. And we were just like, at this point, we're better off not having a punt returner. It got to that level. And I thought for sure, okay, maybe there's no better option right now, but an entire offseason that you'd find somebody who could be your punt returner.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know. If they go a different direction now at wide receiver, which is maybe another area we can touch on, right? Because they've made some waiver moves and they've already made some trades. I would assume that wide receiver would bump Xavier Gipson off the roster, but then who would be your next man up to return punts would be the question.
They would have to get a guy that could return punts, because right now I don't know. I don't like, who do we have? This Pritchard was
Cisco?
the only one.
I think Cisco caught some punts at training camp, but I don't know if he's ever done it in a game before.
That would be so scary, right? That would be like, I mean, even I'm saying it, I'd rather have Gipson than just like a guy who did it in camp a little bit. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's like you lose games over that. Like a muff punt can cost, obviously we all know, can so easily cost you a game. Look, I would love to be wrong about Gipson. I would love to be wrong. I'd love to have him, bring Dak 2 for touchdowns, be really good, no fumbles, and maybe they were able to fix him, and it would be a great thing to be wrong about. But I don't think it's wrong for a fan to not trust Gipson after what we've seen in, his last 28 games, since that game against Buffalo. Like, when you look at what we've seen since that game, I don't see how anybody could blame or say a fan should trust him and not be skeptical.
David Bruce says, sorry, I'm late into the chat. The 3 new guys that we've brought in, is there any news on who they'll be replacing? Not yet. The Jets haven't made additional moves with, cuts to make room for those guys, but bringing in a tight end, I would think Jeremy Ruckert is potential odd man out. Zaire Barnes at linebacker, I think would be potential odd man out. And then either Max Mitchell or Marquise Hayes on the offensive line for Issa Pohl, the offensive lineman they claimed.
I mean, you were talking about Ruckert. Do you think it's going to be Ruckert that gets replaced as far as tight end? But that's not official, right?
No. I was saying, like, it's not official. He's saying I'm late. The 3 new guys who we brought in, who would they be replacing? We don't know yet, but that's my guess as of now and what we've been talking about in the first half hour or so on the show.
Right. We think Jeremy Ruckert at tight ends. We think it could very easily be Stone Smart. We think that it's going to be the offensive lineman that I can't even say his name because I never heard of him, or Mitchell. And we think it's going to be Zaire Barnes at linebacker, right? That's our guesses.
But look at this. Connor Long is hanging out with us. He's in Europe right now, still in Italy. Says, shout out to Jeremy and Matt. Smash the like and sub. I felt bad for our guy Connor yesterday, Jeremy. He was live with me from about 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, which is, I think, about 11 o'clock at night last night in Italy time. And the Jets didn't release the roster until about 1 o'clock in the morning his time.
Oh my God. Here's what I can't understand. I understand that Connor's in Italy, but that means that your chat donations turn into euros?
I guess. That's funny.
That's funny to me. I would never have guessed that. I would have thought his bank is still the same bank. The money's coming from the same place. Like, how is it like euros? Like, why is that happening?
That's funny. He is now an honorary European. That's what he is.
He's an honorary European. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed it, but have you noticed that Connor, like, we've watched him go from this little kid to like this, like the voice change and like the change in him in the past 18 months?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think he's doing awesome work. We're watching him grow up. He was breaking some news and some stories on guys who were getting cut and who the Jets had interest with. He was on the money with Jelani Woods. So look at Connor growing up in front of our eyes right here. Yeah,
it's wild. It's just wild. It's like it's a different person. Like I got onto a call with him. I joined his channel for a show. We were backstage and I signed in and I said, "Who are you?" Like, he was this adult, like, all of a sudden he has this deep voice and, and it's funny because some of his friends really haven't gone through that yet. So like when he does the show with his friends, they're still like these little kids. He looks like their big brother.
Oh, that's great. Daniel Mejia joins the channel. Thank you so much for the support. Daniel really means a lot. We appreciate it.
Nice.
wanted to get back into some of these chats. So apparently, I wanted to make our way back. There was an explanation on why they kept Xavier Gipson, and one of the things AG said was 0 fumbles in 145 training camp snaps they counted. Hopefully they could fix the fumbles in game.
Hopefully. I want to make that really clear. Like, we can question moves and be pissed about it and whatever guys that I don't like on the team. Like what gets me is when people, like, we cannot like a player. Like, I agree. I'm fed up with Clemens and his sportsmanship and the way he acts and like the penalties and things like that. But that doesn't mean I root against them. Like, I feel like we turn on these players. Like, we're still Jeff fans. Like, if they come out and play great, like if Gibson comes out and he does a great job as a punt returner, then I'm going to say, man, I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad they kept him and he's the guy they stuck with. You know, I'd rather be wrong and have the Jets do well and have a Jet do well than be right and have the Jets do bad, you know, obviously. So I hope this is true. I would love to see them be able to fix him and make him good. And I know that Aaron Glenn probably coached the hell out of him in the punting, probably himself personally, probably got involved in that.
Yeah, and look, they made their decision. They're buying into Xavier Gipson being, you know, changing, right? If that isn't the case, and if it becomes an issue, they still have Pritchett on the practice squad who could always elevate. So it's not like they completely lost out on him and don't have anyone else to turn to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I you know, it's like funny. Like, I think there were people who used to grumble when Lazard would do something good. Like, the hatred for that player. Like, you want to talk about Clemens, but man, Lazard, there were times where he caught touchdown passes when me and Greeny were watching the game and people in the chat were mad. Oh God, that means he's staying. That means they're going to keep using him. Like, it was like, what's going on here? He caught a touchdown pass. Can we just be happy? You know?
Yeah. Once they're on the team, once they make the team, we want them to be good and contribute. That's got to be the rule. No rooting for or against your personal agendas. Root for the good of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other reason I say it, like someone said, good point. AG was a punt returner. Parcells did it for him. I saw a documentary or a special where Parcells was coaching Aaron Glenn in punt returning and teaching him how to like position his feet, focus on the ball, and then explode. Like, it was crazy. But I actually, and there might be some older fans that remember where I saw that, because I have no idea where I saw it. But I saw footage of Parcells coaching punt returning. So that's why that was in my head, because I was like, oh, it must have been, if he did that, that means he did it for Glenn. So in return, I'm imagining Glenn. I can imagine he's doing it for the punt returner that plays for him, because it was done for him.
Yeah, like Jonathan says, AG still got it. If Gibson struggles, AG will return punts himself.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at it for the Jets.
Yeah. Hell yeah, he was. Whoa, knocking my whole office around.
Yeah, your whole background's gonna fall over, Jeremy. You get too animated.
Whoa. Watch that hat fall on my bald head.
I don't know if we got into Jarek Bernard Converse not making the team and getting claimed. That's someone I was a little surprised didn't make the roster.
Yeah,
Jeremy, I thought he had a good training camp and preseason.
Yeah, he did.
I think Quantez Stiggers gives you maybe a little bit more on special teams, which if it came down to one or the other, I understand why they chose Stiggers, but I was hoping Bernard Converse would make it, because I personally wasn't ready to give up on him.
Yeah, I know he didn't play against the ones. So before anybody, so we'll acknowledge that he didn't play against the ones, but he was one of the highest rated cornerbacks in preseason of all teams with a certain minimum amount of snaps. I understand it wasn't against the ones, but that wasn't his choice, right? He doesn't choose who he was playing against, and he played really well in his opportunity. And it's kind of like, again, it brings that question of what do these guys have to do? Like, you come into a camp and you're told that you could win a spot and you play really well, and then you don't get the spot. But at the same time, they have a lot of tough decisions too. You can only keep 53, and you can only keep so many people on the practice squad. Surprised he's not on the practice squad.
Yeah, I'm definitely surprised that, he didn't, or not upset, but that's something that I was hoping that he would make his way back to the practice squad. I'm actually not surprised that he got claimed and put on an active roster somewhere. I do think he's good enough to be on a 53-man roster. and he'll get some opportunity to play. I think it's just a strong, position for the Jets. That their corner room is pretty particularly deep, especially with AZ Thomas and Quantas Stiggers now too.
Yeah. Stiggers, it must be special teams, right? But he played against the ones. Remember the play he got beat. Everyone's going to remember that from his preseason. The play he got beat. I'm not so sure. He got beat, but I think the bigger responsibility was on Cisco on that play. I think that the safety was supposed to pick that up at that point. But again, I'm not. It's hard. I don't know the play call. I don't know the scheme enough to say that factually, but I think Frankie thought that too. Like Frankie said, that was Cisco's to pick up. And once the receiver cut on the inside like that and then started posting deep, it was supposed to be Cisco.
Yeah, Quantas was passing him off in zone coverage. In my interpretation, and I've seen a few people say that too.
Yeah, so that was so he kind of got beat up on that play, and then I thought Stiggers had some ups and downs. I thought he did some very good things, and then there were some things where he didn't do as well.
For sure. Our guy Dano is hanging out with us. He says sexy bald men brought me here from Google. So all you have to do is Google sexy bald men, and then you get the jet stream with Jeremy. That's how it works. It's pretty nice.
Danger's the best. I love this guy. I'm going to drive to Pismo Beach in Oregon. It's about 8 hours away. And I told my wife, we got to go there one day so we can go hang out with Dane.
Yeah, we got to get Dano out here for sure. That'd be a fun one. I haven't seen, I was just checking to see if Brandon Smith signed on anywhere. Him not being at practice, though, obviously it's not official, but I would assume that means he's likely not going to come back to the Jets here. Do you feel the same way, or are you kind of in a different boat?
I think if a guy is not there, you should be concerned.
Yeah.
If you like them and you want him to be on the roster and he's not at practice and there wasn't an injury announcement, you should be concerned. Because if it's an injury, they would have had to announce that. Like they would have been placed on IR kind of thing.
No, for sure. And I don't believe it's an injury thing. I haven't heard anything that it's an injury with Brandon Smith. While you mentioned injury, this sparked something that I initially didn't realize, and I did get wrong yesterday, but would later correct. Byron Cowart's on IR and out for the year. I thought he was just out for the first 4 weeks. So Leonard Taylor making the team, my initial thought was, okay, I'm glad Leonard Taylor made it because that was another guy that I didn't want to, give up on yet. I think he's, a good pass rusher.
Yeah, very much.
But what did the Jets do in 4 weeks when Byron Cowart's ready to come off IR? But shout out Frankie from Flatbush. You brought him up earlier. He noted in the chat and was like, no, that he wasn't designated for return. So Cowart's out for the year, which kind of adds to the Jets' 2 trades that they made to bring in Briggs and Phillips, right? It explains things a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that the that Phillips is definitely that's the explanation for Phillips. There's no question about it, right? And I think the other one is that we were out there anyway looking for a defensive tackle, and I think that the reason we ended up making 2 trades was because when we were out there fishing and inquiring about players, both of those worked out to be compensation that we liked and thought was good. I don't know if they initially said we're going out to trade for 2 defensive tackles. I think that they just found 2 good deals and said, well, let's bring them both in. Let's do both deals, because we were that bad in the room that and plus now we know this guy's out for the year and we had the need.
And also too, Phillips is a starter. So they went out and grabbed someone who I think is a big improvement to what they had. Like if Cowart was healthy, I think going into it, the expectation was he was going to be the starter next to Quinnen Williams, but I would significantly rather Harrison Phillips over Byron Cowart as a, de facto starter on the interior.
It ended up being an upgrade. I still can't believe the Vikings did it. The fans can't believe they did it. I always go to the other fan base. I always go to the other fan base and say, what are they saying? Right? Because just like we know, right? They not that they're always right, but it gives you some idea of what the sentiment was about them, right? Like if we released Clemens and someone else got him, and they checked our fan base, they'd say, "Oh, we don't want." Like they wouldn't be excited when they'd see what this fan base would be saying about Michael Clemens, right? But with this guy, it was like, oh my God, it's like losing a member of the family. He's part of the community. He was such a big part of our team. He was such a good leader on the field. Like the when you hear what they say, it was pretty much, we should be pretty excited. Like really excited. I look at his highlights and some of his play, and they weren't like this freak. They weren't freak type things. It was like strength. He's able to push through people. He's able to see. He has the vision of the backfield. He was able to get to the backfield and know where the running back was going. Really impressive stuff.
Duncan wants to know, any worry about Nick Folk's health since we have thicker kicker on the practice squad? I don't know if they did it with like assuming Nick Folk is going to get hurt, but at his age, I think they realize that he's not a long-term answer, and maybe they're hoping that Mevis just gets better throughout the season.
Maybe Aaron Glenn knows what Green Bean always says to every coach and everybody that comes in here. Do you know what you've done? Do you know who you've joined? And maybe Aaron Glenn knows this is the Jets. The odds that we have a kicker stay healthy an entire year is about 1,000 to 1.
Yeah, well, how many would they have? 3 kickers last year?
Yeah, we just got, I thought 6. We ended up bringing in 6, or like bringing in so many. But like over the last few years, look at our history. I mean, you know, if you know who the Jets are, then you know, don't anticipate your starters playing very long. Like, be prepared, because you're gonna have to go to a lot of backups, and that includes even kicker. For us, even kicker.
Look at this. The great Jake Asman's hanging out watching. 2 guys talking Jets football the way it ought to be. Jake, thank you for the support. I'll be on tomorrow afternoon with Jake Asman. I'm sure talking a lot of roster moves and hopefully some other moves that are made.
You know,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, about Jake, not enough people know about he fills in. He does this ESPN radio show. And everybody talks about his YouTube channel. People, you gotta go to download ESPN Radio or whatever it is, sports radio, and pay attention to when Jake is on. Like, it's ESPN Radio New York or something. I got the app on my phone. He's amazing. Like this guy is going to be like he's gonna be like Rich Eisen. Like, that's his future. So get in now with him and watch him and listen to him, because he's the best.
It's funny you said Rich Eisen, because he actually interviewed Rich Eisen today. He's filling in on the Michael K show. So that's awesome. Yeah, really funny that you mentioned that. So I'm gonna go back and listen to that.
I didn't even know that. I just see him as a future Rich. Like, that's what I think when I see him. I'm like, oh, well, he's coming up the way Rich Eisen came up. As like this Jet fan that, you know, but he knows and can talk about all sports. Like, people, he's not just Jets. Like, he can talk about anything.
Wanted to close out the show today with a question for you. Do you think the Jets are done at wide receiver, or do they make a trade to acquire a wide receiver?
I think there's 2 moves I wouldn't be shocked at all if they made. And I will not be shocked if they do nothing. I'm never shocked at nothing, because at some point teams just stop and say, this is our roster. What if we went out and traded or signed a wide receiver? Not shocked. And also the same I could be said for edge, right? There's still some guys out there, I think, in free agency, even a couple of guys with experience.
Darius Smith is still around.
So there's still some guys. So I think that there's those 2 possibilities. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if you see us bring in an edge or a wide receiver. Not at all.
No. I would say most likely they don't bring in another wide receiver. But I did find it interesting that supposedly the Jets are still kicking the tires on trade offers.
I just wouldn't be surprised. There's no, I mean, I'm not saying that they definitely are. They're definitely not. I wouldn't be surprised either way. Just like I wasn't that surprised when we got Jelani. I wasn't that surprised with any of the moves they've made so far. Like, I think that they're in a mode of, and Aaron Glenn said it, and most coaches say it, if there's an opportunity to make the team better, they're going to make the team better. And that's not in our eyes of what makes the team better. It's in their eyes of what makes the team better. It's who they like. And nothing's going to shock me that much, because I understand that we have some weakness and some lack of depth in parts of our roster. So any move they make just looks to me like they're trying to resolve that. You know, they're trying to build up the depth in the roster.
Last one, we got a super chat here from Dano says, just a thought, 2 kick returners on the practice squad. You need Mevis with them? Question mark. So Pritchett is one. Who's the other? Does Quentin Skinner return at all? Is that the other one that he's talking about here?
I don't know.
Here, I'll pull up the
Yeah,
list.
look at the list.
So Skinner, Pritchett, Watts, Page, Cook, Smith.
I could say it's not Watts.
Yeah.
I think he was making a joke and saying it was the thicker kicker.
Oh, okay.
That's what I think he was saying. I think that's what he meant. Like he was joking that the thicker kicker is the another possible returner.
I see.
Which is funny.
Yeah, I mean, look, for the thicker kicker, I understand why people would rather have that roster spot go to somebody else. And, you know, Brandon Smith or Donovan Edwards not coming back to the Jets. I understand why there's fans saying that. Oh, I'd rather have, you know, either one of those two guys than I would have an additional kicker. My assumption is the Jets just think that they need to develop Mevis in case one, Folk gets hurt, or two, if, you know, he's 41. He's not going to be kicking here forever.
I mean, look, why would any team keep a kicker on the practice squad? I mean, the obvious answer is a couple of things. They understand the reality that he could get injured, and they believe that he's a better option. Having him there just in case is a better option than having to run and find somebody and bring somebody in based on what's out there. So they're obviously going in this belief system that, but you know, that technically, because you're keeping him on the practice squad, he's technically there for any team. Like if any team has an injury, you could just go get him. So that there's no protection of him. He can go anywhere. We're just the team that's kind of keeping him there. You know what I mean? But like, there is some protection. Like I think for every player could have this protection thing put on them for a few weeks. So if we see if we see another team playing on Sunday and their kicker gets hurt, we can then flag and protect. I think you could protect up to a certain amount of players on the practice squad, and there's a limit to how many weeks you can protect them. So I think there is a move they can make to protect him if we notice a team in need, like because there's an injury and we're worried they're going to poach him. But, you know, that's just me speculating.
No, I think it's a good thought there. And again, we'll see if any other moves are made. That's the latest on the New York Jets and the state of their roster. 3 new waiver wire additions. We'll see who the 3 odd men out are. That'll do it for us in this one. We will be back again next week, Jeremy, and that much closer to the start of the regular season. How about that?
Sometimes I think, is it a promise or a threat that we'll be back next week?
Both? It can be both. Up for interpretation. That's for sure.
We'll be back, and I think it's the no, we'll have one. No, it will be the last time we meet before the game.
Yes. So a little preview for week 1, and then you're coming up here. So I'll see you in a little bit after the next time that we talk.
I will literally see you. I get in on Friday morning, and I'm going to see you on Sunday morning. So, so we'll have the show, and then I'll see you in 4 days.
I love it. That's going to do it for us, guys. Before you get out of here, make sure to leave a like on the stream. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and we will catch you next week.